Welcome guys to a new video. Thank you for watching my channel. Today we have a new deck build for you guys. Of course we all know the Shadow Bandit that is Luard nowadays. It's been a very strong deck, but I want to show you guys something other than Luard, just because Luard has been milked out the entire way. It's a super fun deck in my opinion. It's just amazingly strong in an irritating way for a lot of players. So for that, I think most people of you guys know already what Luard does and everything. So I revisited a deck from the past. I already played this deck and it was already a lot of fun to play. But today I want to do a deck build for you guys, so you can also see how it's been adapted with the newest support set. And what we're none other talking about is of course Gust Dragon. So Gust Dragon has been from the VEBO4 set, I think. Yeah. And he's been amazing later into the support wave, because at first he wasn't that good, or when he came out most people thought he wasn't that good and everything like that, but slowly but surely he became better and more awesome, because himself at the cornerstone of the deck was already solid in my opinion, but he needed a lot of more great ones and great tools that support around him, and we finally got that in the past with the support waves. And now we got the introduction of course, the Superior White engine, which works perfectly with this deck. So, for person who don't know it, Gust Dragon has been a card that it controls actually your opponent's damage on a little bit. And how he does that is by stacking a lot of criticals on himself. So your opponent either way takes his attack, or just guards it entirely, and it's just amazing attack from around 40 to maybe 70k attack. You try to put all your force marks under your Vanguard, just go for force 1 and smack it that way. And what happens is it becomes harder for your opponent to guard every single Gust Blaster after Gust Blaster turn. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. You try to be at high damage in your opponent, so your opponent cannot heal away some damage, so they cannot counter charge, and your opponent most of the time only get 2 counter blasts at maximum. So they need to play with that, and more than that they never get. So let's go over to the deck and I will show you guys how I play it. So of course you already saw it. I play one starter. It's been just common to play a starter, of course. Every starter does the same. I just feel Fubao is the blessed starter of preference. Then at the cornerstone, of course, I play 4 Gust Dragons. Gust Dragon is just amazing. I already told what he did. But for his skill, he can on attack count +1, retire 2 rearguards from your own, and you can draw a card for it and get a retire one of your opponent's rearguards. Is on the opponent. Your opponent can choose which alpha rearguard they want to retire. His second skill, when you have a Blaster Grade 3 Vanguard in your zone, he gains a crit for every rearguard that's been retired during your turn. You can go over rearguards, you can sack them free. His own skill doesn't really matter. As long as rearguards are being retired, you gain extra criticals. So we try to build the deck around it. We try to put some cards in that can fill up your board, so you can sack it for Gust Blaster. You try to be as defensive as possible, like you want to be an entire wall for your opponent to crush, while dealing one single heavy attack they need to guard against every single turn. So that's the cornerstone of the deck, and let's go over for the rest of the support. So as I have said, we play Superior White engine, so I play 2 Phantom Blessed Dragons. It's really necessary to get the Superior White off, so that's why I want to play 2 Phantom Blessed Dragons, so even if one comes in my hand or went into the damage, I can still access it in a second. If both of them are already out of the deck, then it's just really unlucky, and then we have to deal with it. But as the cornerstone, we play 2 Phantom Blessed Dragons. He has been a solid VR in the past, but has been power prepped out of the game, and he has now been recently put back into the deck. His price has also been raising since then, just because the Spirit solely relies on him, and that's what I find fun, just because an old card gets a new addition to the deck, like the older Blaster Blades and the Blaster Darks already, you play them for the name consistency, but now also the Phantom Blaster Dragon you play for the name consistency, not as much for the skill. So we play 2 Phantom Blaster Dragons of it. And then for the newest backup grade 3, I try to play 2 Phantom Blaster Overlord. So Phantom Blaster Overlord got a lot of trash talking about him, not because he is entirely bad, but because other VRs do the job much better at closing games, enabling games, getting card advantages. But Blaster Overlord just does a simple thing, but does it strong. So what do I mean by that? Gust Blaster Dragon, as I have said, comes for a lot of critical for your opponent to deal with. Well, Phantom Blaster Overlord comes for just 2 critical, because his base critical is being changed if you have Phantom Blaster Dragon in the swamp. And you already want to stack Force 1 marker, so it's just perfectly. It's also, you play a lot more Blaster units, so if you can also ride him first and then Gust Blaster, of course. But why we play it is for the Protect Major. So you can still keep your opponent like around 3 damage, so if you get it, it's just the pressure of getting a critical. But you can also try to go for a multi-tank route, because he can sack a Vanguard and call a Blaster unit from your deck to the Vanguard circle, so you get multi-attacks off, so that's really nice. So you can play around the Protect marker, and that's really why we play it, and we play it as 2 copies of it. We don't really play that much Blaster units in the deck, but we for the target for his skill we can go for the 8 Blaster units, or not himself of course. If he's on the Vanguard circle, you can still get the second copy, but we play 8 grade 3 Blaster units in this deck, so you have just your targets right there. Then if a game goes really long, like you ride Phantom Blaster Dragon, you go into Gust Blaster Dragon, you later go into Phantom Blaster Overlord, and you still didn't finish them off, and yes, it does happen. I played it one Danger Launch to just go for the final push. Yeah, can I focus it? Let me focus, please. Yeah, it's focusing. And we can go for the final push. Your opponent is already at like 3 damage, and you can still pressure them with this. And because you have ridden so many grade 3s, you have so much force markers, it's another pain to deal with. So as you see, this deck revolves around revolves a lot around having high critical on the Vanguard, swinging with that, and having your opponent to deal with. If they have a lot of PGs, and then it's like set for you, but you can still work through it. It just takes a longer time. This deck isn't like a first grade 3 ride and your opponent's dead. No, it's a lot of a control deck, and I know a lot of people say, oh, Vanguard doesn't have a control deck, but this deck like controls your opponent's board, controls your opponent's damage zone, and gives your opponent the choice if they want to die or not. And is in my essence the most control deck we can have in the current format, with everything that has been rushing lately. So we play also 2 Phantom Blaster Dragons. Okay, so these are Phantom Blaster Dragons. Now these are Blaster Dark, of course. Blaster Dark we also play for the Superior Ride engine, and what is so good about this card is that we can directly search that off our deck, because we also play the main, and the main can fetch out the 2 Dampu Dragon. So we also play 2 Dampu Dragon. He can sack himself for a Soul Blast, and you can search out the Blaster Dark. So you have already 4 copies that are directly searching out if you have 1 card on the field. Also he gains 5k if you have a Blaster Vanguard, which in most of scenarios you already have. Then to fetch out more cards are the Fun Dive Eagles. Why we play the 2 Fun Dive Eagles is for the reason we control our opponent's damage, so we only want to do 1 big Vanguard swing, and the rear guards doesn't really matter. So we can better have like more defense onto the rear guard circles, so we can suit up for the retaliation of our opponent, because we are placing the force markers primarily on the Vanguard circle. So it doesn't really matter if this comes for 5k, 10k, 15k. We usually don't swing. We don't want to give them counter blast they can use to swing at us back. Then for another grade 2, I play 2 backup Leofal. I personally find these are really great. Let's say for example you want to go for the superior white, you have Blessed Dark on the Vanguard circle, you can just call this out and get in the main, so you can still go for the superior white. It enables you with consistency, also fetches out your grade 1s you won't have, and because the grade 1s are really important in this deck, just like any other shadow deck, because always the grade 1s are really amazing for shadows, and it showcases it by having the 4 in the main, of course. So we play 4 in the main. It searches out every 5k unit from our deck if we want. It's hard once per turn, and I'm very happy to be it so, because otherwise, otherwise Bushy did make a really grave mistake. Luckily they didn't, but it's still like a really top tier card you want to play. You want to play this as 4th, you want to see it at the first grade 1 white. There's no reason you want to play it as a 1 of a 2 of a 3 of, even if we can possibly play it as a 8 of, I will do it in my opinion. Unfortunately, Vanguard of course had the restriction that you can only play a 4 of every single card, so that's why we play a 4 of. But if we ever get it just showcases you guys how powerful this card is, and it does every 5k from your deck, so you can deck fin a lot. Already in the grade 2s we can already filter like 6 cards from the 8 we play. That's amazing. If the game goes long enough, we are sure to get some triggers in the later stages. Then for another 5k unit we play Abyssal Owl, gives us the draw power. We can fetch it out with main, and we can first draw a card with this, and with Gust Blaster we can easily retire it. So we get easy retire folders for our Gust Blaster, and with that we can get every single turn enough rear cards to sack, so Gust Blaster goes for 3 critical. Also it's just extra draw power, which this deck needs just for Soul Blast, because we want to go for a long game, not for an early game. Then 2 Band-Aid for the superior white if we have Blessed Dark on the Vanguard circle, which we can get with Damn Food because we can secure the right target. We can instantly go for the Phantom Blessed Dragon and up our turn play by 1, because we play 1 turn ahead of our opponent. So if our opponent is like on grade 1, we can potentially already be on grade 3. Then I play 2 Dead Armor Dragon. I personally like it. It retires itself to give a Battle Doy effect to any unit that attacks. So mainly you give it to the Vanguard unit. It also enables so you get an extra critical. Because another card is being retired, it only is that it costs a lot of board space. It already costs like 3 rearguard circles for it, and that's the more heavier part about this. But it's still searchable out with the main if you really need it. And then for another grade 1, we play Kubao. Kubao is really necessary. We can fetch any 5k unit from our drop zone back to the hand. So we can recycle our Fallen Dive Eagles, Abyssal Owls, Dead Armor Dragon, you name it, back from the drop zone. And what's so great about this card is every single turn with Gust Blaster you retire your units. It doesn't matter if you retire rested, stand, or it doesn't really matter which state the units are on, as long as the rearguards on the rearguard circle. So you can just rest them, it doesn't really matter because you aren't planning to attack with them. You can rest them, add a defensive card, tank a shield card to your hand, and with that you up your defense by a lot for no single cost. So it all works in the ballpark what this deck wants to accomplish. Now we play 2 cards that gain power. Whoa, yeah, I said that we gain power, but we want to place this under the Vanguard circle because when something is retired from your opponent, which is with Gust Blast of course, or when something from you is retired, you can choose to give him 10k. So Gust Blast Dragon, if you go first, you get the spear right off. You already have 2 force markers, is 33. Gust Blast gives himself 10k, is 43. This is a 70k booster. You hit your opponents for 60k while they are in grade 2 with potentially 3 to 4 crits. That sounds scary if they don't have PG, and that's why we play this card as a 2 of. We can fetch this out with Leofal if we want, also the same for Kubao, and that's why we play it. And then for the last grade 1, I was debating on this, and I was and I thought, why not play Bremen? We have a lot of great trees. We want to fetch. Rewriting is important for this deck, but it's also important to get the right great tree. So having one Bremen is really nice. I wanted to play more. You can cut potentially one Abyssal Owl out, but more but playing more Bremens isn't. You don't have the space to play more Bremens, so we only play one for now. But you can potentially up it by, with an extra one if we cut Abyssal Owl to 2. Then for the trigger lineup, I personally like to play 8 criticals. Why I play it is so we don't, for the scenarios where you go for 3 crit attack and you get an extra critical, you don't have to force yourself to get the extra critical. Also in the later stage of the game, your resources are becoming more scarce. You already went through your soul, mostly also to your counter blast, and a critical can help to finish off the game. Also, as I have said with danger lines, you need that extra critical on him to secure that your opponent finally dies, and that's why I play 8 crits. Then for the rest of the trigger lineup, it's just simple. You play 4 draw triggers. We don't have any space for grade 1 PGs, and it's just extra draws are really nice, so you have extra folders to sack if you really need to. And as I've said, we want to be on higher damage than our opponent, so why not play 4 heals, so we can heal more than our opponent does, of course. And with that, we get extra value out of it. We can potentially countercharge of it because we can heal a face down card. Of course, we used the counter blast early on, etc, etc, and that's why heals are damn important. It's also 20k shield, so they are also really fine with guarding with. You can also try to play like the 12 crit build, but I personally find that 12 criticals are far too many. This deck already comes with a high base crit count, so playing extra isn't that necessary, but you can of course test it yourself what you find better. So this is really it for the deck. That Gust Blessed Dragon has been more fun to play, is a really great addition to me. I personally like this deck more than Luard. I also really like Luard itself, but Gust Blessed Dragon on itself is the deck I enjoy the most out of any shadow deck I currently have, and that says a great deal to me. So I hope you guys try it yourself. It's not a deck you can just pick up and try one time and think, okay, cool, I'm done. It hit or doesn't hit. No, it's just you need to try it out. Games can sometimes even take like 30 minutes. You have to accept that, because this isn't a deck like Overlord to Cross or Luard that wants to close out on the first grade 3 or second grade 3 turn. No, this deck can last a long while against certain matchups such as Night Rouse. So hope you guys enjoy it, and see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.